to the Rock Your Life podcast. Today I have a special guest with me. I have Josi Richards. She is a marriage and family therapist who specializes in trauma, PTSD, anxiety, anger management, just to name a few. Welcome to the show, Josi.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
Yes, I'm so excited to dig into this conversation because I know that we are all going through a lot right now over the past year, and this is something we all really need.
Yeah,
we need to talk about this.
Yeah.
So before we get into that, why don't you just kind of give us a little background, let us know, what, like who you are, what led you to the work that you do.
Sure. So I'm originally from Brazil. I first came to the United States when I was 20, so 20 plus years ago. And I actually originally was a baker. I worked as a baker for a long time. And I realized then with what was going on in my world and my life and my family, that wouldn't be enough to maintain us financially speaking. I loved my job and I loved the place I worked for, but I decided that I wanted to, here I was in the United States. It was very hard for me to learn English. Once I did, I was like, I need to do something with this. So my BA was in theology. So I studied the relationship between humans and the divine.
Wow.
It's really fun. Couldn't do much with that degree though.
Yeah.
But that definitely pushed me for my master's in marriage and family therapy. And I have been doing for over 6 years now. And I absolutely love what I do. Yeah.
Wow, that's an amazing story.
Yeah, thank you. It was hard though. Schooling has never been too easy for me, but
Yeah.
I have a goal. I know what I want, and there are certain ways to study when you're not a book person.
Yes, I know. I always say that, if you have a driving force, a mission, a knowing, then you're going to find whatever it takes. You're going to do it. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I have 2 amazing children. My son is 9 and my daughter is 6.
Oh,
and,
nice.
Yeah, I am a single mom. I'm not single, but
Yeah.
I am a single mom.
Oh, yes. And that must be so hard. Yeah. I know. I have a 13-year-old.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I mean, sometimes it's hard. Yeah. Especially with this last year with school and everything.
Yeah, exactly.
It's been really hard. I guess we can just dive into, talking about trauma. What kind of things have you seen in your practice involving, people that they may have a lot of past trauma and how it relates to their, their health? Maybe they're going through, autoimmune issues, or they're just always sick. And maybe they don't realize that those two things are connected.
Yeah. As a marriage and family therapist, our profession and our board is very strict to what we can treat and what we can and what we can speak on and what we can't. There's definitely tons of research that connects trauma, PTSD to cancer, mental health issues, and other physical symptoms. Mm-hmm. So when I have a client that presents a lot of physical symptoms, I ask a lot of medical questions as far as when was your last checkup? Did you do blood work? Are you taking any medications? I kind of point it out. If it's a physical thing, I point it out for the client to go get those things checked, right?
Yeah.
As far as the mental health world goes, what is really interesting is that, just as an example, someone comes to my office and say, I was diagnosed with borderline personality disorder. Oh, okay. Let's talk about your trauma, if that's what the client came for, right? Mm-hmm. Let's talk about your trauma line. And we see that what we don't know as mental health professionals is kind of like the egg and the chicken thing. What came first?
Yeah.
Was the person borderline first and then trauma came, or did trauma come and then the person has symptoms of borderline personality disorders? And of course, this is just an example. We could do the same thing with chronic anxiety or depression. Well, are you depressed because of the trauma? Or, you know, so it's very interesting for us to really kind of, as we take our time to treat the client, sometimes we go like, no, you don't really have this mental health disorder. You just have a lot of trauma. And once we treat the trauma, then the symptoms will go away. I actually had a case when I was a student that everybody was saying, she's borderline. And I was like, she's not borderline. She just has a lot of trauma. And we did trauma work. And there you go. The symptoms were all gone.
Oh, wow. That's amazing.
Yeah. As far as trauma treatment, we know there are a lot of new things coming up. There are a lot of new discoveries also with the advances of technology. People are creating new pathways of treating trauma. The two very strong ones we have that have been available for clients for a long time and has the stamp of medical professionals, mental health professionals, are EMDR. I will talk a little bit about that in a second. Yeah. And neurofeedback.
Oh.
So when people ask me, Josie, do you know about shocking blah, blah, blah? And there's so many things. If you Google treatment for trauma, there's so many things in the market because there's so many new things, which is awesome. Yeah. But we don't know if the new things are going to be effective until we give it time. Mm-hmm. So the ones we have it that we're giving time and has research and proven and stamped their work are neurofeedback and EMDR. For both, you need to have a special license, a separate license. Just because I'm a mental health professional, I cannot simply do one of the two. I need to go and really get my license and specialty on that. Yeah. As far as neurofeedback, it's more like they put the wires in your brain and make you watch a TV with waves. There are different ways of doing. I'm not specialized on that one. Yeah. But I know that that's how they do it. So it's more like an observing the waves and your brain is being processed that way.
Oh, okay.
Now, the one that I do have the training is EMDR. And that's the one I use in my practice. And I have had amazing results. And it stands for eye movement desensitization reprocessing.
Wow.
And it has been, I think it was before COVID, we were celebrating our 30th anniversary. So it has been at least 32 to 33 years in the market. Became they started the studies with soldier coming from war with PTSD.
Yes. And
trying everything that was available and nothing worked. So nothing was working. So they tried the EMDR and they had amazing results, and everybody was so impressed that they're like, how about we try for other things? Like, we're doing this for soldiers, but how about we try for anxiety, or if someone was raped, or if someone had a severe death in the family? And then they started the tryout for other things, and it basically works for anything, whether if it's a mental thing, like I'm afraid of spiders and I never see spiders, but I don't want to be afraid of spiders anymore.
Yeah.
Or if it's like, I lost someone and I'm having a very hard time coping with it. Right? So The basis of EMDR is, are you familiar with the Rem Sleep? But the Rem Sleep is
yes.
rapid eye movement.
Yeah.
We all go through the Rem Sleep every single night when it's called also the deep sleep, right?
Yes.
So basically is when, and we usually observe this in kids or babies, when they are with their eyes closed and fully sleeping, but the eyes are moving from side to side. You can kind of see the pupils.
Yeah.
Move, right?
Yes.
That is where EMDR started from.
Oh,
with the rapid eye movement, because with the technology that we have now, we were able to measure that when we are going through the rapid sleep, we are filing information. So basically, when we wake up in the morning, we collect information throughout the day through our 5 senses, right? So we see something, we smell something, we experience something through our 5 senses. The brain is collecting information throughout the day. And it does that over and over again. But the brain doesn't really separate the information between good and bad, true or false. It just collects information. When we go to sleep, that our eyes are moving everywhere, we are stimulating right and left, right and left, right and left of the brain. And with that stimulation, what we're doing is that we're putting the information that we collected throughout the day in files. So you have a file for recipes. Oh, I learned a new recipe. When you're doing the rapid eye movement at night, that information goes to the recipe file. I learned something new about my family. That goes to family file, and so forth.
Okay.
Big things and small things are being filed. So supposedly that day, unfortunately, you went to a gas station and the gas station was being robbed. And even though you didn't get hurt, you presenced something really traumatic, right? Someone pointing a gun to everybody else and you not knowing if you're going to die or not. Okay, so you are sleeping and your brain is collecting everything. And then out of a sudden you get to that information. Gas station, gun, life, and your brain goes back and forth in where it should restore that information. Should I put here? No, it doesn't go in recipes. It doesn't go in family. I don't have a file for this. This is so foreign for what I know. So that information is going to get frozen and it's going to get stuck in your brain.
Oh, okay.
Then as we go throughout life, we get a lot of those iced blocked, and then our brain doesn't have the same fluence that it had before to just think and go about our day. We stumble in those blocks a lot, and we trip and fall in our thinking and our emotions as we go throughout the day because we have those memories that weren't able to be filed.
Wow.
Yes. So EMDR uses the same process that we naturally do at night, but you are fully awake, helping your brain process something that wasn't able to process during the night.
Oh, wow. That's very interesting.
It is.
Yeah. So when you are working with people with this, do like things that they didn't even think about for a long time, like that are trapped in their files, I guess, do they just kind of come out and are they re-traumatized or
no,
how does that work?
Yeah. And that's a question that does come up a lot. Every person is very unique in how they process. I have had clients that, and this is what is interesting. The brain will bring up what it needs for healing only.
Oh, okay.
So if you need to remember something for your own healing, you will remember. But in order for you to heal, if it's not necessary for your brain, for you to remember, you won't. So I have had, in doing the EMDR processing, I have had clients where they said, wow, I have forgotten this. Like, this is so interesting. But we are already in the process of healing, right? So usually that's not a re-traumatizing thing. That's like, let's continue processing. We're already in the process of healing, right? And I've had I've had a case long time ago that the person said, I want to process something, but I don't know what it is. I know it haunts me, but I don't know what it is. And I said, okay, tell me a little bit about it. And the client said, I just remember gooey stuff. It was something gooey. It was something. And I was like, okay, so we processed that gooey stuff. And at the end of the processing, the client said, I said, so what are you needing for process? And the person said, I just need to open the curtains because everything is dark. And I was like, okay, so now let's go ahead and open the curtains. So the person did, and the gooey stuff was processed on a scale from 0 to 10. Before was a 10 in disturbancy, now was a 0. And we to this day don't know what the gooey stuff was, but it was processed. The brain did not need to give us that information for the healing.
Oh, it just kind of need to go there, but not.
Yeah.
You didn't know the details, but.
Yeah. And sometimes we do, and sometimes we don't. And what is really good about EMDR too, is that a lot of people, especially males, I see, at least the ones I see, they don't want to talk about their stuff.
Yeah.
So EMDR is very little talk. You don't really need to sit down and give us your whole traumatized, detailed story in order for us to heal. There are some questions we're going to ask, and we need to put some, but there were EMDRs processed with no information at all.
Wow.
Yeah, the person that trained me said, there was a client that came to my office and he said, I want to process something, but I don't want to tell you what it is. She said, all right, what would you like to call it? And he said, I would like to call it the ugly stuff.
Oh, okay.
So the whole process was the ugly stuff. Once it was done, he felt free to tell her the whole thing, but it was already done. He didn't have to tell her. He chose to tell her. He was like, I want to tell you now, because now it's not a problem anymore. And then he shared what it was, but the whole thing was processed as the ugly stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, that's very interesting.
I know. I love what I do. It's really rewarding to see people that have been stuck with a secret or with a big thing or a minor thing for years.
Yeah.
And come and go through the EMDR process and get healed.
Yeah. So that sounds like a really great way that people can go through the healing, but they don't have to tell other people about, maybe they're ashamed to talk about something. And that's why they don't go through, they don't go get help, basically.
Yeah. Those are rare, I would say. Most people, they come and they say, I want to process this, and then we can get a little bit more information. But if the person is absolutely refusing, I don't want to talk about it, there is a way to really go about it and process it.
Wow, that's awesome. So, now let's talk about other modalities that you work with.
Sure.
What other kind of therapies do you offer people?
Yeah. I was just recently trained in EFT, which stands for emotionally focused therapy. Okay. It's a great model for couples or relationships. We do also do individual therapy for that. It explores a lot of where that core emotion is coming and where is that need that we have. A lot of our needs comes from attachment problems, like the lack of attachment that we had with our caregivers when we were little. Oh. So there is a way to heal that, right? Because depending on the attachment story that we have, I can give you an example. My biological father passed away when I was 1. Wow. So I had a narrative attachment there, a story that I created in my brain that every male in my life will just going to disappear one way or the other. It's either going to be by death, or they're just going to not want a relationship with me anymore. And I'm going to have that male disappearing at some point in my life. So I went through my own EMDR processing through, another person. I didn't do my own therapy, but
yeah,
I committed myself just because I also wanted to know if it was gonna.
Oh
work.
yeah, we always gotta test it on ourselves, I think.
Right. and one thing that interesting that came, one of my healing aha moments that came with my own EMDR was, wait a minute, I have two amazing brothers. My brothers are the best, and they have never left.
Yeah.
They are always there. And so that was a piece that my brain was missing. And I've had, of course, that wasn't the whole thing, but that was one of the peak moments of my healing. It was like, not every man will leave you just because your biological father passed away when you were 1. But that was a cognition that I was going through. So with EFT, because I talked about EMDR, now emotionally focused therapy, I had that missing core. I had that in an attachment. I didn't have an attachment with my biological male figure. My mom has always been in my life, but I didn't have an attachment with that figure. So I've had a lot of emotions on that, right? So in relationships, one of the tendencies before I did my healing was, oh, before you leave me, I'm just going to go because you're not going to stick around anyway. So what's the point? So it heals. Emotionally focused therapy helps you heal those attachment needs, because even though for people that had both parents and they were great and they were awesome, no parent is perfect. And then we go to school, we have some maybe bullying, or maybe, some disappointments that we have there. So in a way or another, most people have a little bit of attachment healing that they need to do.
Yes, I know. I definitely had that, that same the male figure leaving issue. Yeah. And I carried it into my marriage. Sure. And I, for a long time, and finally my husband, he said, when you say these things, I would say very negative things, that he's just going to leave me. I'm not good enough. I'm not worthy. I'm not worth you. All these kind of things. And then when I started going into my healing, I had to heal. I just healed those things by confronting them. Yeah. Yeah. And I think a lot of us have those things and we just don't realize, okay, why am I feeling like this? And then we have to kind of go back and say, oh, it's because of that.
I work a lot with that in my practice, and I like to call it the fatherless heart. Rather because the father passed away, or the father left, or the father was an addict and was never really present there. If it was the absence of a father, there is this same symptoms that a fatherless heart presents. So that's something that I do work with quite a lot too. Yeah. Even if the person realizes or not, I was like, oh, you're presenting symptoms of a fatherless heart. And they're like, what is that? And then I explain it, they're like, oh yeah, that's me.
Yeah. And even my husband had the same issues with his father. His father was there, but he wasn't there. Yeah. He was close to his mother. And I didn't, of course, our husbands don't want to tell us. He didn't tell me anything until recently, when he would just say these things to me. I'm like, oh, wow, that explains so much. Right. It's like, I know why you're the way you are. And even in his fathering my son, has changed since he dealt with it, I guess.
Yeah. And sometimes those are harder, because for me, I could just say he's not here. Mm-hmm. But for someone that he's right there, but he's not, is really, really confusing to the brain.
Yes. And he also shared that he never said, I love you, never once. Yeah. And it really explained a lot. It explains, we can heal we can heal from our past, how we were parented. But it is hard sometimes. It's hard to do those.
Healing is not easy. And it is painful, and that's why a lot of people choose not to. But my point is, aren't you already suffering? Some people go like, I don't want to go to therapy, or I don't want to seek my own healing because it's going to be hard. It's going to be so painful. Well, aren't you already suffering every single day?
I know. I feel like, you know, that that's so important. Like, we have to kind of go into those dark, you know, we have to do that shadow work. You know, you have to kind of deal with some of that so that you can move forward.
Exactly. And another one that I want to comment on too, because I absolutely love, is cognitive behavioral therapy, also known as CBT. We have a lot of acronyms.
Yeah.
When I started in this field, I was like, how am I going to know all those letters?
I know. Yeah, I was going to ask you about that. I can't keep track of them.
Well, EMDR, it starts with eye movement, right? So that's an easy one.
Yeah.
And then the other one is the emotional one, and now this one is the cognitive one.
Yeah.
It works a lot with broken thinking, right?
Okay.
So we develop throughout our lives, we develop broken ways of thinking and seeing things, right? So examples of it could be using absolutes. He always does this. She never does this. Well, nobody in the planet can always something or never something. That's a very difficult thing to be. So it's not very healthy to use those things. You know, I often feel hurt by so-and-so is different than he always hurts me. Well, it doesn't wake up in 24 hours hurt you, because I'm pretty sure that person needs to live his or her life, right?
Yeah.
Broken way of thinking, absolutes. Another one, which trauma brain has a lot, people that went through trauma, is the black and white thinking, or the all or nothing thinking. It's either here or either here.
Oh yeah.
It's very hard because life is gray, right? It's never just this or just this.
There's a lot of variables.
Other ways. Yeah, but I like problems in thinking equals problems in life. And if we correct our thinking, everything starts in our thinking. If we correct our thinking, we can correct a lot of things in our lives.
Yeah, I know that's definitely true for me. Once I got out of that, I guess that victim mindset. Yeah. Like, oh, I'm never going to get healthy. I'm always going to struggle with this or that, or I'm always going to have this addiction demon, or, you know, those kind of things. But maybe we can just think about your next step or the next day. Yeah. Like, well, maybe today I don't have to have that drink, or that I don't have to have that unhealthy food, or, you know, I can make a different choice.
Yeah. And there are some cases where we can look for the tools and kind of do our own healing process alone. There are times that we need to contact professional help.
Oh, yes.
Because that's what they're specialized in, right? And a lot of times you need those tools that you don't know about because you're not in that field in order for you to heal. So rather if it's like a blood work to see what your health is, or a mental health professional, or a coach, or even a mentor, a leader, you know, for you to have that help, and for you, a nutritionist, you know, for you to have that help that you need.
Yeah, I think it's really important to have a support system too. Yeah, you know.
Exactly.
Yeah, but like like you said, like if you need some help with a certain thing, don't be afraid. So I think there's a few different types of people where some people it's like all or nothing. I'm just going to do it myself. Yeah. And then there's the people that they they are wanting help with every little thing, but maybe if you can kind of meet in the middle. And
yeah, exactly. And in the mental health field, we measure a person richness by the person's support system.
Okay.
So depending on, we, of course, when the person comes to therapy, we do the intake and we ask some questions, and then we observe what is that person's support system. If the person has, it's not about the quantity.
Yeah.
It's not about how many people that person has, it's about quality. It could be one or two, they're high quality, that person is way ahead.
Yeah.
And is a rich person because of that support system.
Yes. I highly agree with that.
Yeah. And it's really hard. I was talking to a very good friend of mine yesterday on the phone, and we became friends as adults. So we were already adults and we became friends, and we were talking about how hard it is to create solid friendship as an adult, because most of my friends are back in Brazil, and we do have a WhatsApp group and we do talk, and with Facebook and all of that. But I've known them since pre-teenage years. I've known them some of them for more than 25 years now. And then I came to the United States and I know the importance of friendship. I was like, I'm going to at least try to make a friend here.
Yeah.
And it's not easy for you to make friends at an adult age, true friendship, right?
Yes.
But it's worth trying. It's worth getting hurt and going like, oh, I thought this was a good friendship for me, but oh, it's not.
Yes.
But for people because I know I'm fortunate to have created those friendships for 20 plus years now, but I know that that's not everybody's reality, because some people moved a lot or whatever the situation may be, but it's never late.
No.
This friend that I have here, we have been friends, I would say, for a little over 3 years. So it's not late to.
No, I know.
A support system.
Yes, I agree. I the last few years I've kind of gone through that, because I had a lot of friends from going to the bars and all that stuff. Yeah. I used to be a big drinker, and then I had my son, and your life changes when you have kids. And over the past couple years, I lost a lot of friends, but then I came to the realization that I wanted to build friendships with people that were like-minded and that believed a lot of things that I believed. And even though I wasn't going to have all these friends per se, maybe the true friendships are those really deep
quality over quantity.
Yes. So now I have a few friends, and of course I'm always trying to make new friends.
Yeah.
But the ones that I see a lot and I talk to a lot, they're on, it's kind of like they're on my level, and we share a lot of the same qualities about what we want out of life, basically.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
Well, let's talk about what kind of advice would you give families right now who are struggling with.
That's a good one.
Yes, I mean, with especially right now with if they have kids or don't have kids, or just families who are struggling to navigate what's going on in the world, because I know that there's a lot of things that are going on right now.
Absolutely. Well, I'm going to start by saying there is not a magical pill or a magical answer, but there's definitely some things that we can, number one, tell our brains. Talk to our own brain is a very powerful tool. Choose to look at certain lenses versus others. So let me start with this. We are in the middle of a crisis, okay? And what is interesting about this one is that we have personal crisis, family crisis, nation crisis, but this one is a global crisis, which is really interesting because for a long, long time, we haven't had a crisis that absolutely everyone, rich, poor, color, no color, whatever, educated, non-educated, we're going through, right? Almost, equally in a sense. So in a crisis, when we do crisis intervention, there are certain things that you need to consider. One of the definitions that I like about crisis is that your tools and your knowledge don't work the same for you. Because if you had a problem and with the tools that you have and the knowledge that you have, you're able to fix the problem or minimize the problem or organize the problem, then it's not a crisis.
Yeah.
A crisis means all my knowledge and all my tools are not going to make this pandemic go away.
Yeah.
So that's a crisis. What I know and what I have, my knowledge and my tools cannot help me with this. Now I'm in crisis. I don't know what to do. I'm lost. So that is, two important principles right there. One, it's a global crisis. We're all going through it. And number two, what I normally would do or use will not work because we are in the middle of a crisis.
Yeah.
So that causes for some changes in our routine and habits, as we all know and have experienced.
Yeah.
And some creativity too, right? So in crisis, it's not recommended to make any big decisions. Should we sell this house? Should we buy this house? Should I change my profession? Unless it's something that you absolutely know 100% and you have consulted other people and they have said, no, this is a good move. Don't do a big move because you are also in a crisis mentality that your thinking is not very organized.
Yeah.
Especially because usually crises are shorter. And this crisis has been going on for 2 years now.
I know. It's hard to keep track.
Am I the right math there? I don't know. I've lost count.
Yeah.
I remember when people were saying, oh, three months. I was like, yeah, whatever.
I know. It's crazy to think of how long. I know it's been really hard for a lot of people.
Yeah.
It's almost like you have to just navigate your life. It's, you have to kind of figure out what's going to work,
Yeah. And then I want to give everybody a tool that is really, really helpful, not only with crisis, but when you are in kind of like, I don't know what to do kind of situation, but works really well for crisis. So there is a research done that shows that out of the things that we worried about, only 8% are likely to happen.
Yeah.
Okay. So 40%, I don't remember exactly what the research is. Maybe I can pull it up here real quick. But at the end of it all, only 8% is what is really likely to happen. So with that said, when you look at the 8%, you need to ask yourself 3 questions, okay? Question number 1, what in this situation do I have control over? And control could also be put as influence, okay? So control or influence,
okay,
right? So what do I have control or influence? What do I have no control or influence? And what do I have some control and influence? Okay, I'm going to open up the research here and let's hope that because it's a TED Talk. Let's hope that they're not going to start talking.
Okay. Well, if it is, this is not a perfect podcast. It's okay.
Okay, so I found it. So here's the research.
Okay.
Out of the 100, you wake up in the morning and you're stressed because of the crisis.
Mm-hmm.
Your worriness in your head. 40% of the things we worried about never happen. 30% are in the past and cannot be helped.
Yeah.
12% involve the affairs of others that are not our businesses.
Mm-hmm.
10% are related to sickness, rather real or imagined. So only 8% of the things that we worried about are likely to happen.
Wow.
Okay. And this research was quoted on the TED Talk called Be the Worrier and Not the Worrier. Now my accent's not going to help this.
That's okay.
Be the fighter and not the person that worries.
Yeah. Oh, yes. Yes.
So Fighting Anxiety and Fear by Angela Cabarreno. Okay. So
okay.
You can go on YouTube and put TED Talk.
And I'll find that and I'll link it in the show notes for this podcast.
And if you want, I can send it to you. It should be easier.
Yeah, I love TED Talks. It's awesome.
So then what happens in crisis, right? You're stressed because you either have kids or not, you're homeschooling or not, you like before you didn't see your husband as much and now you guys are in the same house, and whatever the crisis is, right? You need to look at it and pinpoint what are the worries that you're having. And then in that, you have to come up with that 8%. What is really likely to happen, right? Or what is happening right now in front of me? When you have that, you ask, what do I have control? Some control and no control. Because there are certain things that we have influence.
Yeah.
There are other things that we have some influence. And there are other things that we have no influence. And what is interesting to me is that a lot of times we spend most of our time and energy in the ones that we have no control.
Yes.
But if he would only do this, well, that's another person.
Yes.
Someone else's affair. You're not going to fix that, right? So you need to focus on, you need to identify and then focus on the some control or control, the some influence or influences versus everything else. That is going to help you to really focus your time and energy in something that you can actually have a result.
Yeah.
It's really being intentional with your time and energy. And ask yourself, you heard something rude about someone? Do I want to invest my time and energy engaging on this? Sometimes we go like, yeah, this is worth it. I do. And sometimes we go like, no, I'm going to invest my time and energy in this instead.
Yes, I think, when the whole pandemic started, I had to really rein it in and figure that out for myself as well. Social media is a big stressor for a lot of people. And a lot of times we want to get in there. We want to defend our beliefs. We want to fight with people. But, in the end, you're not going to change someone's mind. A lot of people are set in their ways, but what you can do is you can lead by example. Yeah. You can be that. And I decided early on, I was just going to be that positive voice. Yeah. I was going to be the positive voice and I wasn't going to engage in anything. And I don't.
Yeah, absolutely.
Sometimes I'll state my opinion a little bit, but I want to be the positive voice. Nice. Because I think we need a lot of that. Yeah. Right now.
I would agree with that.
Yeah. Especially. So what are some daily, we'll close this off because I know I'll have to let you go soon. But what are some good daily practices that we can all implement to kind of protect our mental health or improve, our mental health?
Yeah. So I like to say that we are like a triangle. Right? Everybody, regardless of your background and belief, we are made body, soul, and spirit, right? So you get a triangle, you put one in each corner. And I feel that not with perfection, But with excellence, with perfection is wanting to do everything without flaw. That's never going to work. Excellence is doing your best with what you have, right? So trying to create that balance for yourself, right? Because if we really work on our bodies, but our soul and spirit is lacking, we're not going to feel complete, and vice versa for all of that, right? We really work on our mind or on our soul and spirit, but don't work on our body, we're going to ache everywhere. So we really need to look for that balance. Again, not with perfection, just with what works for you, right? So body is doing the things that we all know we should do. Really pay attention with our sleep. Adults should sleep 7 to 9 hours a day. Everybody has a little bit of a different number, but 7 to 9 hours is a good number for an adult. Drinking water, eat your fruits and vegetables. We know all that stuff, right? Yeah. Our spirit is really our connection with our higher power. And a lot of times, because people grew up in a very severe religious home, or they have seen some stuff, they push that away. But really, it's what works for you in your spirituality. And spirituality is different from religion. Yes. Right? Religion are the rules, the regulations, do this, do that, this is wrong, going to go to hell, all of that stuff. Yeah. Spirituality is really a relationship with the person's higher power. Yeah. That's really important. And we have tons of research that shows the importance of that is spirituality, right? And the other one is the soul. Some people call the mind, some people call the soul. It's where we store our emotions, right? I love therapy, not only because I am a therapist, but I have my own therapist too. And I feel it's amazing for you to have someone to organize your thoughts with you. The way I see therapy is like when we're driving and we have the blind spots in our car that we need to either turn our heads or look at the mirror. Therapy is kind of like pointing out those blind spots to make you be a better driver for your life. So really, with your soul is like, what am I thinking about? Really think about what you're thinking about and consider your emotions, because all emotions are good. Consider your emotions, consider what they're telling you. Sometimes you're angry because there is an injustice, right? Or you're sad because you're healing. So our emotions are great depending on if we quote, think that they're good or bad. They're all working for us. And that is that other part of the triangle. So really try to balance with what you know and with what you have, body, soul, and spirit.
Wow, that's really awesome. Yeah, I believe that too. Yeah, because I think that's the one thing that's helped me over this past couple of years is I really dove deep into my spirituality, you know, and getting in touch with myself and just sitting, breathing, doing breath work, that has helped me tremendously. And so I always tell my clients, we always start our sessions with a little bit of breath work, because that gets you to check in with yourself. Like you have all this chaos going around you, but if you just sit with yourself for a little bit, then you get the messages, you get the downloads, you know.
And there are two ways that we can detox our brain, right? We know how to detox our body. There's so many detoxing diets out there, right? Yeah. And there are two ways that we can detox our brain, our thoughts. One is deep breathing, because we do a lot of shallow breathing throughout the day. But if we take the time to do some deep breathing, that's why they say breathe 10 times, because you're detoxing the brain. Yeah. And the other one is exercise. Those two can clean up the toxics in your brain.
Yeah, I know. You know, I've been working a lot on, you know, this podcast and everything. And so this morning, even though I have a lot going on, I made sure I woke up really early and I went on a bike ride, because I realized I hadn't been taking care of myself. And that helps me detox, the exercise.
Awesome.
And the breathing, of course.
Yes, absolutely.
Well, this has been a really great conversation. I feel like I can talk to you forever.
Oh, thank you.
About all these things. I mean, there's so many things I could talk to you more about. But let everybody know, how they could get in touch with you or.
Sure.
Yeah.
So I am licensed in Nevada.
Okay.
So if you want to contact me for therapy specifically, I can do therapy if you are in the state of Nevada. However, I do conferences and classes. Okay. Josi, I want to learn more about your tools. I won't be able to be your therapist, but I will gladly put a class together on whatever the topic that you would like to learn more.
Okay.
My direct line is 702-280-3759. 702-280-3759.
And I'll put that in the show notes too.
Okay, so you can contact me through there. Also, if you go to psychologytoday.com, there is going to be a link there. Find a little search there, find a therapist. You can put my name, Josi Richards. My name has no E because I'm from Brazil. So it's Josi Richards. There is my profile, and that is a lot of, my specialties, what I do, prices, and all of that.
Mm-hmm.
My website is beyondtherapy.com. Beyondtherapy.com has several amazing therapists there. And I'm also there, can also see my file. And then I created, 2 years ago, I created a professional Facebook profile where I post tools and resources for free for people. So I have tools on focusing. I want to learn something, but my focus is really bad. So you can go there. There is a whole series on focusing, relationships. This week I'm reposting on motherhood because I felt I didn't want to do a new one because the one I did for last year, I had guests and it was so awesome. So I'm reposting on motherhood and how to navigate that better. So I have tons of tools there. So it's Josi, again, Josi, Mara Richards. That's my second name. And I'm also on Instagram, Once Upon a Mental Health. And on Instagram, I mostly put quotes. So if you want to wake up with a nice mental health quote, just for you to have it on your phone or for you to remind yourself, that's what I do over there.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. And I'm sure everybody will love all this episode. It's full of really great information.
Thank you. Thanks for having me.
I know that I learned a lot.
That's good. I'm happy.